Well, grand rising to all of you, my family and friends, and of course, welcome to Elonda Monet's Motivational Moment. Before I start, I must do my salutations. Obaragani. Assalamu alaikum. Ikaro. Now that I've done my salutations, let's get into the meat of the message for today. We're continuing on our series. We have one more day left, but we're continuing on our series of the African American history before 1865. And today we're going to talk about the Civil War and emancipation. Now, just to let you know, Abraham Lincoln only freed the slaves in the North. The South still had slaves. They were still allotted slaves. And even in some slave states like Missouri, they were still able to have their slaves. So know your history. Know your history. Okay, let's get started. The Civil War era was a pivotal time in American history. Tensions over slavery, states' rights, and economic differences between the North and the South culminated in a devastating conflict that reshaped the nation. The war led to the emancipation of slaves and profound safety changes. Key events like the Emancipation Proclamation and the battles such as Gettysburg altered the course of the conflict and set the stage for Reconstruction and ongoing struggle for civil rights. Now let's get into the key events and timelines. The Compromise of 1850 attempted to balance free and slave states, including the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. Kansas-Nebraska Act allowed popular sovereignty to decide slavery in their territories, led to violence in Bleeding, Kansas, 1854. The Dred Scott and Stanford Supreme Court decision ruled slaves were not citizens, and Congress could not ban slavery in territories, 1857. John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry aimed to start a slave revolution. Brown was captured and executed in 1859. Abraham Lincoln elected as president. Southern slaves began seceding from the Union, and that's between 1860 and 1861. The Confederate forces attacked Fort Sumter, making the beginning of the Civil War, which was April 12, 1816. Emancipation Proclamation included declaring slaves in rebel states free, January 1st, 1863. The Gettysburg Address delivered by Lincoln redefined the purpose of the war in November 19, 1863. General Lee surrendered to General Grant at Appendix Courthouse, ending the Civil War, April 9, 1865. Now let's talk about major figures and their roles. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th president, led the Union during the Civil War and issued the Emancipation Proclamation. He was assassinated by John Wilkes Booth shortly after the war ended in April the 14th, 1865. Jefferson Davis, President of the Confederate States of America during the Civil War. Robert E. Lee, commanding generals for the Confederate Army of Northern Virginia. Surrendered to Ulysses Grant at Appomattox Courthouse, effectively ending the war. And put a pin. If you go to Grant's Farm in St. Louis, Missouri, right behind Grant's Farm, you will see the Ulysses Grant Museum. And in that museum, they have different places where you can go. They also have the slave quarters. They have where they stayed, what door they were to enter to, and what part of, and they will show you like which part were actually fields where they actually tended the grounds and all that stuff. So if you ever get a chance, come to St. Louis, Missouri, and go to Grant's Farm. Right behind Grant's Farm, you will have the Ulysses S. Grant Museum. Check it out. Very inspirational. Ulysses S. Grant, Commander General of the Union Army during the later part of the war. Frederick Douglass, a prominent African-American abolitionist and orator, recited African-American soldiers to the Union Army. He recruited African-American soldiers to the Union Army. Harriet Tubman, former slave who became a conductor of the Underground Railroad, served as a spy and a scout for the Union Army during the war. Now the causes and build up to the Civil War. Growing tensions between North and South over the issues of slavery. Economic differences between industrialized North and agricultural South. Debates over the expansion of slavery into new territories acquired through westward expansion. A little pin here. If you go to the African American, if you go to the museum, you will see pictures of the World, the World Museum or the World's Fair, and you will also see that in there it says how the world was won, how the war was won, how the world was stolen, or how the land was stolen. It was two different perspectives: the white perspectives and the Indians. The white perspectives say how they won the world, and the Indians talk about how they stole the world. So two different perceptions of the same incident. So if you have a chance, go to the museum and look at the American Fair, and you will see it. And they also had black humans or human beings, African Americans, in that World Fair. So make sure you look that up. The abolition movement gained momentum while figures like William Lloyd Garrison and Frederick Douglass. Publication of Uncle Tom's Cabin by Harriet Beecher Stowe increased anti-slavery sentiments in 1852. Formation of the Republican Party, which opposed the expansion of slavery in 1853. Put a little pin here. If you did not know this, or if you did not know, the Republican Party started off being for the blacks because the Democratic Party did not accept African Americans. The Republican Party was actually for the poor people, the people who were disfranchised. Though that's what the Republican Party started out being. Now, the Republican Party is on the other end of the tadpole, and the Democrats are on the other end. So they kind of switch roles. Okay. Polarizing events such as the Kansas City, Nebraska Act and the Dred Scott decision further divided the nation. Now let's talk about the African American experience through the Civil War. Many slaves fled to the Union line seeking freedom, known as a contraband of war. African Americans served in the Union Army and Navy, with over 180,000 enlisted by the end of the war. The 54th Massachusetts Infantry Regiment, one of the first African American unions, gained fame from their bravery in battle. Just a little stick pin, that even though they had regiment or infantry regiment, they still had to be led by a white man, because black people can't think. Black people don't have sense, and black people don't have minds. So they still had to be ruled by a white man. And then they were still discriminated with or against, no matter what. Discrimination and illegal treatment were common for African American soldiers, paid less than white soldiers until 1864. African American women contribute as nurses, cooks, and laundress for the Union Army. In the South, slaves faced harsher conditions and increased workloads as the war progressed. Some African Americans, known as the Black Confederates, served in the Confederate Army, often in non-combative roles. Remember, African Americans could not think. They did not possess mental capacity to do anything for themselves. They had to be told everything. They had to be shown everything. So they thought. Now, the Emancipation Proclamation and its impact. Issued by Abraham Lincoln on January 1st, 1863, declaring slaves in rebel states free, applied only to the states in rebellion, not border states or Union-controlled areas of the Confederacy. Like I've said before, Abraham Lincoln did not free all the slaves. He freed certain slaves in different areas. Now, it transformed the purpose of the war from preserving the Union to ending slavery. Encouraged African Americans to join the Union Army and Navy. Laid the groundwork for the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery through the United States, and that was 1865. International impact prevented European powers from recognizing or supporting the Confederacy. Psychological impact boosts morale for the Union and demonstrated or demoralized the Confederacy. Now let's talk about the military strategies and battles. Union strategies. Anaconda Plan aimed to blockade southern ports and split the Confederacy by controlling the Mississippi River. The Confederate strategy was a defensive war, depending or hoping to wear down the Union and grant international recognition. The Battle of Fort Sumter, the first battle of the Civil War, is April the 12th and 13th of 1861. The first battle of Bull Run, the first Masses, a Confederate victory that shattered hopes for a quick war in July 21st, 1861. The Battle of Anthem, Shippsburg, the bloodiest single-day battle in American history, ended in a tactical draw in September 17, 1862. Allowed Lincoln to issue the Emancipation Proclamation. The Battle of Gettysburg, a turning point in the war, and a decisive Union victory, July 1st through 3rd, 1863. Sherman's March to the Sea, the Union campaign that devastated Georgia and demoralized the Confederacy, November and December of 1864. Now let's talk about the social and economical consequences. Devastating loss of life, over 600,000 soldiers killed and countless citizens affected. Destruction of Southern infantry and economy. Many Southern cities and farms were burned or destroyed during the war. Emancipation of slaves led to the breakdown of the plantation system and the transformation of Southern society. The increase of role in women in the workplace and society. As a man, they were away fighting, so the women had to step in. Economic boom in the North due to wartime production and industry. Inflation and shortage of goods in the South due to the blockage and the strain of war. Displacement and refugees, as many people fled war-torn areas to sought freedom. Now let's talk about the legacy and long-term effects. The abolishment of slavery through the 13th Amendment, which happened in 1865. The Reconstruction era aimed to rebuild the South and integrate free slaves into society, 1865 through 1877. The 14th Amendment gained citizenship to all persons born in the U.S., including former slaves. And that happened in 1868. The 15th Amendment prohibited and denied voting rights based on race, 1870. Jim Crow laws and segregation emerged in the South, limiting the rights of African Americans. Civil rights movement in 1850 and 1860s fought for the end of segregation and discrimination. Ongoing debates over Confederate flags, monuments, and legacies over the Civil War. The impact of American literature, art, and popular culture, which works with the red badge of courage and Gone with the Wind. Strengthening of the federal government and the presidency. And the proceedings set for the use of executive power during wartime. Now, those were just some of the things that actually happened during that time. What's funny is that every time African Americans had or received a step up, they set laws. And that's what we have to do. We have to change the laws. Changing the laws to better suit minorities. Changing the law to make minority situation equal must be done across the board. It cannot just be us walking and talking and having sit-ins. We have to change the laws. If you notice, every time something happened within the African American society, they went in and created a law so that it'll never happen again. And that's what we are fighting against. The laws that keep us bound, the laws that keep us segregated, the laws that keep us from being who we could really be, and laws that keep others from knowing what we have done, the contributions that we've made to America, the contributions and everything. And just a little tidbit or just a little stamp here, the Statue of Liberty. When they first did the Statue of Liberty from Paris or France, the first sculpture did not have a book with numbers. It actually had chains. And the sculpture wanted to send that over to America so that we won't forget our past, knowing that now we have freed the slaves. Now, I did not know or I did not recognize that now she has a book, but the slave chains are at her feet. Go out and look at the Statue of Liberty in pictures. You will see that there are chains at her feet. And a lot of times we won't even notice any of the other things because, you know, the statue, the torch with the flame has been changed. But we would not even have known that they were chains down there because they are not eye level. When you are looking up, you cannot see her feet. But I challenge you to go and look at the Statue of Liberty. And at her feet, you will see chains. At her feet, you will see chains. So with that being said, guys, I love you, but God loves you more. And always remember, I'll see you at the top because the bottom is way too crowded. Don't forget to look me up on YouTube. It's Elonda Monet Hatter, and I'm on YouTube. Check out my other videos. Check out some other things that I have listed on there. Self-help, self-motivating, all of that stuff. Go and check me out. See you later. Bye.